show blew up in my face. Woke up on the floor, couldn't take no more, my darkest day. But I can't lose sleep on what I cannot change. I chased the lightning, I got soaked in the rain. Danced with my demons till I couldn't see straight. Try to twist me, but I still won't break. I don't mind. I'll find a way.
Daniel, it's nice to meet you.
Awesome. Good morning. We are live. Thank you guys for joining us 21-6 here today at Creator Studios for Bridging Civil Tension. I am Phil Wallace with the amazing Kelly Vance. Also joining us, my little brother Daniel McFadden. You're joining us first time in the studio. Welcome, Daniel. How are you today? Thank you for joining us. Kelly and I were talking this morning as Daniel gets set up.
Yeah.
About the importance of forgiveness, right? Here we try to talk about building the bridge versus burning a bridge. And sometimes on that path, there's little hiccups that come and they kind of knock you off that path. So what do you feel was put on your heart to lead us this morning as far as the conversation of the importance of forgiveness?
Well, I think I think sometimes we have a big misunderstanding of what forgiveness is, first of all, right? And I think that if we don't work through it, which a lot of people don't, who wants to, right? We tend to bring those wounds with us and those fears with us and those offenses with us. And then it makes building the bridge hard because you're seeing everybody through the lens of that,
right?
Unforgiveness. So it makes building bridges more difficult. And it puts you in a defensive position, and it's not good to live defensively, right? We have to be able to move forward. We have to have the ball in our hand and move down the field, right? So
a lot of times when you're moving forward from forgiveness, you move with the wisdom, but you also bring the callousness as well. And that's the part where it causes, because I can't treat you because of how a relationship went with a friend of mine from high school or college or something like that. One, most importantly, you're two different people. And then respectfully to that relationship, it's two different levels, right? What I was accomplishing in high school, college, nothing productive, right?
Hopefully, we're both grown a little since.
Yeah, but I wasn't like, man, building bridges. It was playing basketball and then just hanging out with friends, but it wasn't like a purpose or a higher cause. And so if I come to the table with you, arms crossed, eyebrows raised, callous and doubting everything that you say, like, it's going to be very unproductive, and it's going to slow up the time that we have to get, the task done on whatever we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. It sure does.
Anything you want to add to it, brother?
I mean, well, yes. You can attest to this. When we first met, I was really, really angry. I didn't smile a lot. I didn't want to talk
a long way
because of things that I experienced with older men in my life in terms of bitterness, and I didn't understand how to, be forthcoming with certain things. But the more I learned how to let some of that stuff go and not judge people based on the people before me, then things opened up a little bit more. I was a little bit more well prepared to be in certain places, and I didn't stop my progression.
I think the fun part about Daniel's family, so it's like my little brother. I love his to death.
Aww.
And so we met on the basketball court, but God has really just brought us like a big brother, little brother relationship. I love this dude. And knowing what he's gone through and having personal, experience myself, but being able to show him, hey, look, here's this amazing person. Here's this amazing person. Here's this amazing person. Here's that amazing person. And him getting a chance to see that and seeing how people up here just interact differently. It's more give. Like the first thing you said when we walked in here, it's like treated like your house, man. Coffee's here. Like it wasn't like, oh, nah, $5 if you want some water. Like he was like open and giving. And so I feel that sometimes, and I've seen this a lot of times, and I hate to bring this up. Like I've seen this with church, where if I could trip you up early on, I can cripple you later on.
Right.
If I can hinder your relationship with the church in middle school, high school, then for the rest of your life, you'll have your back turned to it. If I can have your heart calloused at 18, 20, 25, then when you're 27, you put God's people gets put in your path, you still aren't open-minded to those relationships. Great, I've taken you off the board.
Well, I think with the church, because, I've had quite a bit of church hurt. Sometimes I think I'm a glutton for punishment and I keep going back. But I think what I've learned is that we can't put our hope in the church, right? Our hope has to be in Jesus. And just because, God's word's clear, you will know them by their fruit. Like, look at how they are. Look at the fruit of their life. Sometimes we jump into relationships and think, oh, because they call themselves a Christian, they're safe. Well, that's that. At some point, we have to take responsibility for that. At some point, I need to take responsibility for that, right? And not project my bad experiences with the church onto every church. I can't go around bashing churches because I've had a bad experience with the church, because really, the church is the bride of Christ, and if you're married and someone comes up to you and starts bashing your wife, you're not going to want to be hanging around them too much.
It's not going to go well.
Right. So we have to be careful and move past that. And I think we have to be responsible enough to do the healing work, to not, I'm hearing myself.
Work. Yeah. So Jessica said that the sound is messed up, so I think just working on the sound part of it.
Yeah, right.
The healing work. I feel like that's a word that a lot of people view for someone else to do.
Yeah.
You need to do the work. At the same time, man, you should be tenacious about your healing process, right? It's necessary. To be honest with you, even the experts don't have it all together.
No.
Right? So to think there's only one perfect person, so to think that you do and you don't have to work on it, or you can do so passively, if you are aggressively being attacked, you can't passively heal. It's not going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
You're not outpacing the trauma. Why do you feel like people are so pressed to push off the work of healing versus the personal responsibility aspect?
Because I think grief is a real big part of the process, and it hurts. No one wants to feel the hurt. No one wants to feel the pain that comes with being wounded by people.
Right.
And I think, and recently I've just realized that, man, people talk a lot about grief and how it shows itself least expected. But what I'm starting to see is betrayal all of a sudden pops up. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've been betrayed in the past, I know there's a lot of different types of grief, but if you've had betrayal in the past, that can raise its ugly head when you least expect it. And for me, it usually manifests itself in fear and judgment. I find out that I panic that I'm going to be put in that situation again, or hurt again, or betrayed again, or I get judgy.
Right.
And so when I'm fear-filled or judgy, I know, time to pause, time to either have the conversation or do my own work. Now, there's times, when you talk about the work thing, I am going to say this. There are those of us out there who are willing to do the work for ourselves and everyone else, and you can't do the work for other people. So there does come a point sometimes with people where I can't do your work, and when you do some work, this relationship may look different. But right now, you can't, otherwise you're jumping through hoops. And when people want you to jump through hoops, they want you to serve their kingdom. I think I'm big on whose kingdom am I serving? Because if it's not God's kingdom, I'm out.
Oh, that's a great message.
Because there's a lot of people, even in the church, that are serving their own kingdoms. And that's always going to bring division.
Yes.
Always, because the motivation is self.
So you talked about, like, a lot of people don't want to go through the hurt. And I heard this in a book. The person's talked about not going through the hurt of letting a scab heal or a broken bone heal, but picking at it just prolongs that process. And I think that when you don't address it and take the time to heal, you're just going to keep picking. If I keep picking at this scab, if I keep scratching it, if I keep alluding to it or mentioning to it, but I don't directly address where my pain point is, I'm going to deal with this scab. And eventually that's going to cause a scar, infection, or worse, because I won't just let the healing process take place and deal with that temporary pain. So I'm just going to prolong it.
Absolutely. And, as you're doing this, you reminded me of when I was a little girl. My dad got into a car accident. He was hit by a drunk driver, and the glass shattered, broke this arm up really bad and was filled with glass. Well, long after the stitches were gone and the surgery was done, every now and then, I think this is a lot like with our healing process. Every now and then, for years later, not just 6 months, years later, there would be a piece of glass that would have worked its way up to the top of the skin, and that would have to be taken out.
Right.
And I think that's the same kind of way it is with our own healing and working through unforgiveness. Is sometimes you think you've worked through it, but then all of a sudden you got this little piece of glass that's trying to come back to the surface that you got to get removed.
I got one of those in my elbow.
Do you?
Yeah, I broke this arm, and Daniel's seen it.
Yeah.
I broke this arm, and one of the kids that we coach, his dad is my chiropractor, and I got an X-ray like 2 months ago, and he said there's a fragment in there. And to go with what you're saying, at the time it was like a 2-week in a sling process versus like a 4-week in a cast process, because I rushed the process of healing. 7 years later, it'll pop, or it won't be able to turn over or something like that. So yeah, still dealing with it because I didn't address it early on the first time.
Yeah, see, there's another.
Actually, I'd like to chime in if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Number one, Jessica, thanks for letting us know. We are in our new studios here at 216 Creator Studios. And so I am working on the sound. Sound actually, I think, is working a little bit better. Feel free to chime in if it's not out there in the world. Do appreciate that. Let everybody know this episode is brought to you by Piano Trends. Piano Trends Music here in Crystal Lake. If you're looking to get your kid an instrument, if you want to play an instrument, Phil, if you want to play the zither, you can do that. Yes. You just go see Tim Paul at Piano Trends, and he'll take care of you. PianoTrends.com.
More of a saxophone guy myself.
You are a sax guy. That's fantastic. I love the conversation that you guys are having. And, would you say, and I love how she brings it back up, that piece of glass, right? That's working its way out later down the line. That's why I think everything is usually considered an uphill battle, right? An uphill battle means that I don't think it's ever ending. It's just minimizing all the way through time to where maybe you can manage it internally better. Right. Would you say that would be the case?
Right. I don't think that, I don't know if I have a trauma that I've completely 1000% like, it's just all good. I have it where like, that's uncomfortable, but at least I can talk about it and not be irate, not be distraught, not be devastated, not doubt myself. And kind of to push back with you is the fun part of being able to get it to that point is now I'm able to help other people going through theirs.
Yeah.
Right. So if his trauma looks similar to my trauma, and I'm like, hey, look,
you have the experience of that trauma.
This is what you're going to feel. This is what's going to happen. As soon as you leave this alone, blah, 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 blah. But if I'm so self-absorbed and I don't ever take the time to get all the glass out, then when he's there, I'm like, shoot, you're screwed. I'm so eternally focused. I can't even help you when you're going, but that's what you're supposed to do.
Mm.
A lot of, even in the book, right? A lot of is seeing someone else's failures in a way that says, okay, this person went through this. I can go through this. It's being able to say like, hey, look, it's not the end of the road. This is I tell them, I'm just trying to save you a decade. Because if I'm 38, he's 27, I'm just trying to save you a decade on this particular topic. This is how you got to move on this.
Well, but a lot of times I found myself liking to stay in the grief. It felt better that way. This is why this is bad and this is why that. And it gave me an excuse to not trust people. To be like, don't be that way. Like, I couldn't help it because, I grew up in the church. So my father is a pastor. So it was a lot of times it was things that I was going through that I couldn't really talk about and express because of, being in PK and living up to certain standards. And
preacher's kid for you heathens.
People were like, you got to be this way, you got to be that way. But I understood, like you said, growing up, that it was like, okay, I'm not doing this for other people. I'm here because my relationship with God. It was hard, though, because as a kid, you're like, I just want to be a kid. But you're being, pushed in certain directions, and then you just stop trusting people, stay away from people, and then you go your own route. And going in that route kind of veered off certain places. But once again, like when I met Phil, I started smiling more. I was less angry, right? I was really angry. He'd be like, "What is wrong? Why? It's 10 o'clock. Why aren't you smiling?"
He was like
But-
DMX.
Yeah, really, you know, and I didn't.
Hey, what's up? Why is he smiling at me?
And it stopped a lot of opportunity. And I
Yes.
think that's the biggest thing, you know, because we live in such a communicative world. Like, you have to communicate. You have to, you know, deal with people. I didn't understand how to do that at the time because of I was so unforgiving, angry, and I lived on not wanting to be around a lot of people. He'd be like, I'd say things like, "I'm just gonna go into solitude." He'd be like, "Oh, really?
How's that working out?
How's that working
Yeah.
out?" And it wasn't. It wasn't. It took me a long time, you know, because like I said, it stopped a lot of opportunities, whether it was a job, somebody wanted me to be at. I wasn't being my regular charismatic self because I was scared that someone would turn their back. That's just the reality of it is that we have to deal with people. And when you have kids and you don't want your kids growing up, so I have a daughter. I don't want her growing up, you know, and seeing me that way because then it's a trickle down effect. So it affects one generation to the next generation.
Yes.
They think it's the normal, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the goal, is to stop that before, because it got to me. I don't want her to, you know. So
there's two things.
Abs-
Remind me of the new normals. The one thing that you said is hard.
Go ahead. I'll chime in after you.
He's itching to be on that mic.
Because you talked about like, and it felt more comfortable to be this way about it. And I think and I'm saying respect, obviously with him right here, I think there was a lot of times where I confused it felt better with this is just what I'm used to. I'm used to not having no one to talk to at home, so I could not talk to nobody, right? But to joke, like how we joke, I was comfortable with hamburgers, but I never tried steak before. Right? You can't sit here and argue with me that this cheeseburger is better than this T-bone. I won't believe you, right? When I had great people to talk to without judgment, when I had people offering stuff without a hook, without kind of like throwing it in my face or holding it over, like, this is much better than what I'm used to digesting.
Yeah.
This toxicity. And me and my cousin had a conversation because kind of very similar, like when you grow up on a Jerry Springer show, this is just a Tuesday. You can sit and watch crazy stuff happen and it's like, this is just normal. But normal doesn't mean not toxic.
Correct.
Normal doesn't mean productive. Normal does not mean healthy food.
Right. Well, and everybody's normal is different, right?
Right.
If you watch the Jerry Springer show and you sit at home, you might go, wow, my life's pretty awesome.
And I live in Florida.
Right. Or you might watch the Jerry Springer show and be like, I agree with him.
Right.
You know, and so it depends on where you're at and what what's defined as your normal. I don't think there is a new normal. I just think it's your normal. If my father, I come from an alcoholic father, okay, where some of the best memories was picking him up off the alley on the south side of Chicago from a church function at 9, right? And to me, well, that's normal. Everybody does that, don't they? Because I'm a kid. I don't know. And so you grow up, and then when you get into the real world, you're like, that's not normal. Well, it was your normal. It's how you create your own normal, I think, is what you can explain to others of, hey, that's your normal. Come check out my normal, and maybe that could become your normal too.
Yeah.
As long as, and you're right, 100% right. Toxic, right? The word normal can also equal toxic. Yeah. Toxicity is everybody. It's not just, you hear male toxicity, you hear female toxicity. Everybody's got it. My guy over here didn't smile until you met. Well, you can make anybody smile. I don't care. I've seen it. I've seen the Grinches of the Grinch smile because you're involved. But he came to terms, and the son of a pastor. You said, I'm the son of a nun from the Roman Catholic Church. I'm very familiar ground, right? And a long line of crazy Italian people out of Chicago. So everybody's loud and angry all the time, but Jesus, right. And it was like, you can go out and hurt as many people as you want as long as you ask for that forgiveness. You'll get it. And I never understood that. And my mom was
understood that.
Yeah. Well, it's how it was taught.
No, I get it.
You know what I mean?
I get it.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to jump in here now.
Yeah, do it.
I do think that it is our propensity to want to splash in the mud puddle.
Mm.
And I think when you're in that place where you're angry or when you don't want to forgive because you know you need to forgive someone, but dang it, if I forgive them, are they ever going to get paid back for what they did to me? And blah, 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 all the stuff that we put out there, we splash in this mud puddle. And I think God's saying, there is an amazing lake right there. Like you're so close to the lake and you're settling for this mud puddle and splashing around in it. And so I think perspective is everything. And we can be a victim or a victor. And if we are believers in Christ, we are guaranteed victory. So we don't have to live as victims anymore. And if you getting back to the actual forgiveness is how many things would we not have to do work on forgiving if we just didn't take offense to everything?
Mm.
Like some people are jerks. That's on them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on you.
Mm-mm.
So I don't need to take your jerk stuff onto me. I'll own my own stuff, but you can take your jerk stuff and keep it over there. Do you know what I'm saying? So
100%.
I think that if we stop making it about us, we can have a healthier perspective. And when we trust God, we can get to the lake instead of splashing in the mud puddle.
I'm going to respond to him. I'm going to come right back to that. Because you talked about having a daughter, I think, and I saw this with my sister. My sister has a 1.5-year-old now. She's expecting her second. So I'm going to have a nephew, and he's super excited.
That's fun.
But she kind of grew up in the same Jerry Springer-ish house. And one of the things she said is like, I was fine with this happening to me. It's not okay, but it was okay. It's not going to happen to my kid.
Mm.
When you have to explain what you know isn't healthy to a child, for them to accept, like, it doesn't. And at the same time, you have to be like, then I can't accept this person lashing out or this person acting like this or this person raising their voice in book. That's not okay. If it's not going to be okay around this, it shouldn't be okay around this either. To what you said about that's their jerk stuff. The Power of Now, he talks about the fear monster.
That's right.
And he talks about kind of what you're saying. It's like a spider in a web. And if he says anything, then I got to go run to that and emotionally latch onto and attach myself, something to be so, throw me off my game and be stressed out about or anxiety. No, you don't. Mm-mm. If that person is a jerk, every time a jerk is a jerk, I'm going to get thrown off my pants? No.
That's why we live in an angry world right now.
But I think we always lived in an angry world.
Right.
You know,
that's why it's good to compartmentalize things, though, and put it in its proper perspective, like you said, opposed to like judging people. You have to judge them for where they're at, right? Unfortunately, I don't know if I'm there yet. I'm trying. We had this conversation. We were just having that conversation 2 days ago, just about normalcy, right? Because growing up, it was the way that I'm going to get this across is I'm going to scream at you. I'm going to yell at you until you get it. And unfortunately, it kind of backfired because the kids go to school in the morning, they get yelled at by their parent, maybe, and they go to school and they're angry and they're screaming. And they don't understand why. But because that's normal in the household, or that's normal at home, and there's violence and there's emotional and verbal abuse, all you know is in a relationship, I get upset because this person's not doing what I want them to do. I'm going to verbally abuse them. I'm going to take it that way, opposed to understanding like this is where they are now, and maybe we can work together if they want to get them to that point. And if they don't, then you have to take a step back and just realize that's where they're at the moment. But unfortunately for us, I know for myself, because I invest emotionally a lot, and same with Bill, in people, it's hard because it's like, I love you.
I know, I get that. Yeah.
I love you. I want you to get, but they're there and where they're at in that moment. And you have to really, really sit back and just accept them for who they are. And not just, because we've all been in places where we're not okay.
100%.
Well, I'm glad that you said that because I think one of the points that a lot of people miss is, and we'll go back to forgiveness, like Kelly was talking about. You have to forgive yourself first.
That's sometimes hardest.
And that is the hardest. Listen, these emotions that you carry of anger, sadness, depression, they're there for a reason. If God wouldn't have given to you if He didn't want you to have that challenge to experience everything you can possibly experience while you're here. So, is it bad? No. Is it good? Yes, because that builds character and strength. It's hard to be a good person to carry those morals. It's hard to help other people when it can sacrifice to you. It's hard to do those things. It's easy to give up and it's easy to fail, but you only really fail when you stop trying. So, and here goes the mirror. I'm going to bring up the mirror, Phil. If you own the mirror, look in it. Don't be afraid to forgive yourself first. You can't help when you're on an airplane. When those masks drop, what do they tell you to do? Put your own on first so you can help other people. You have to do that. You have to forgive yourself first. And when it comes to judgment, when you're looking in that mirror, the only thing you're really judging is you. Other people have their own demons that they got to deal with, and they're never going to change, but you can accept them for who they are and respect the fact that they're going through something. The world is on fire, Kelly. You're right. It's an angry world. It's always been an angry world. We're just more aware of it because of internet, social media, and everything else. Firm believer of that. But I hear it all the time. Well, the kids today, they don't know what they are anymore. They don't know. And I'm like, hey, listen, we had our turn. It's their turn. It's their world. They have to live in it when we're gone. So all we could do is try to aim them. I say it's like having a gun. You aim them in the right direction. You pull the trigger and hope to God that those bullets go straight, right, to where you can gain that success. But you're going to learn the hard way along the way like everybody else, right?
Yeah, and I think that coming back to the forgiving of ourselves, I think if we're believers in Christ, He's forgiven us. And sometimes I think our inability to forgive ourselves really displays our lack of belief in the work He's done for us. And I think so often, I do think, and when it comes to bridge building, I lost my train of thought because, I'm 56 and that happens.
No. Usually after I talk, that happens to most people.
But I think that forgiveness is a tough thing. I'm not a believer of cut everybody out of your life that's quote unquote toxic, because we all are toxic.
Sure.
But I think you have to have wisdom, carry the wisdom with you. All of our experiences help to make us who we are. I grew up in a very fear-filled, fear-driven, fear-controlled home.
Mm.
It had to look good on the outside. So whatever we had to do. So even though I did not grow up in a church home, I can appreciate and think of the pressure that people put on pastors and their families to have it look good.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I didn't grow up in a pastor's home, I did grow up in a home where I don't care what we had to do inside those walls. It looked good out there.
That's right.
You know what I mean? From the curb, it was looking really good. It didn't matter what was going down when the door was closed.
Yep.
It just mattered what looked good out there.
Real quick, that's where the empathy comes in, and sympathy. And I think that's another thing in our society that we lack is empathy. Like, we do have to understand. Like, I had to understand. Like, my dad became a pastor at the age of 30, still fairly young. Still trying to figure out things, do things, and he's still trying to take care of a house at home and family and kids and things of that nature. I had to have empathy for that growing up. I had to understand that, because when you're young, you don't understand those certain things. You feel like, I just want to have fun. I just want to do what I want to do. And I felt like the church was a problem. But like I said, it wasn't. It's not the church. And the reason, like you said, the reason that Jesus did come down here and die for us is because of our sins. So we do need to forgive ourselves and let some of those things go. It's just, like I said, it's hard to forgive yourself sometimes, and it's hard to forgive people that you love. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. I could forgive someone that I don't know this does, whatever. But someone that I love, it takes a little bit more time, because the investment that you put into that person. And you just got to do the work, like you said. But if it does feel good, stand in the grief. It does feel good being unforgiving at times, because you're feeding your flesh. And I think that's what unforgiveness is. Just
Yeah.
I think that's what we, as a society, have to do.
Going with what Drew said about the oxygen mask on the plane, right? You got to put yours on first, but you also can't breathe in a place that's toxic. So when you talked about you got to love people where they're at, truth, it doesn't mean you have to join them.
Mm-hmm.
It does not mean I have to stay
Right.
in the toxicity with you over there every single day. I'm not obligated by any means at all. I can be respectful. I can love from a distance.
Yes.
I need to go someplace and heal and go through certain things. And a lot of what I've seen with myself and people around is like that toxicity. That toxic area is never going to breed confidence and your kingdom identity, right? So a lot of stuff that either he's gone through, I've gone through, that I've seen is you're around people who always make you question your authority, your kingdom identity, your ability, all of that stuff. So you can't get better around sick people, right? You're not going to get healthy in toxicity. So that is where, kind of to a fault sometimes, where it's like, I love people, so I want to keep the relate. Not if they're making me question who I am. Not if they're making me question my purpose and identity. Then I cannot be there, right?
So what do you do when that's your family? Right?
There's a book that I read that says, "Who are my brothers and sisters?" God's purpose.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? I have thought about that verse a lot. I have thought about that verse a lot because
I've let people go for lots of reasons. So when the way I grew up, especially coming city bound as a shy Italian, I like to say, there's a lot of thanks, Phil. Thanks for the lowering of the head. Listen, so building the bridge for me to realize that not everything wrapped around my family, and we come from a family, and then there's a extended family, right? So I kind of created a scenario for myself that says, regardless if you're blood or not, you're either an acquaintance, and as an acquaintance, you become a friend. As a true friend, you become family. I don't care if you're blood or not blood, but you can also make your way backwards. If you are hurting other people or doing something and trying to involve me into it, I'm still going to move forward in this. We only visit on the Blueberry. I don't have time for that.
Right.
I'm trying to create greatness for myself and for other people as well that are around me, and hopefully that spreads. It's called ROI, ripples on impact, right? When you can do that, you're really leaving that legacy of who you are as a person. Now, I listen, I'm not very religious. I know you are. And I respect everybody for whatever their beliefs are, but because I was forced into a religion, I created my own. I do my own hard work to try to leave legacy, just like Jesus did on this world. And I am a humanist, so the work that you guys put in is just as important to me as the work that Jesus would have done. Because at the end of the day, he's not here. If you believe that he's looking over you, great. But you are the one doing the work. You are the one that when you look in the mirror, if self-reflection is what God made, if we look in God's image, that's because you're looking in the puddle. You're looking in the mirror. You are him because he made you. He, she, it, whatever, right? I think that to build that bridge for me, it was I had to create my own scenario of my own belief, core values, and my belief system in order that's going to work for me. You become the atmosphere you surround yourself in. I don't care who you are. If you're around a bunch of gangsters all the time, you're going to fit that puzzle. If you're around great people all the time, they're going to lift you up and help you become great with them. So I had to let go of a lot of people. A lot of them were actual blood family members. Now, listen, everybody in my immediate family, I'm the last of them. My brother died. My parents died. Brother died recently, about a year ago now, right, Phil? So all I can do is teach my kids to be as open-minded and to respect other people around them, regardless of what they believe, to know that either they are going through something too and believe that there's pain behind their eyes. So my bridge is being built to my kids where hopefully they can continue that bridge to the next person over or to their kids or however that would work.
I think so. When you're talking about, it is not. Sometimes in this family that you have to let go. If you and Drew are building a bridge, and we're cousins, and I'm putting holes in the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
eventually, most likely it's Drew. It's gonna say, "Hey, cuz, get out."
Right.
And like you talked about, you can go from family to friend to acquaintance based on how I treat his situation. Fantastic job in here in the studio. But if I come in here kicking stuff and breaking stuff, I've tarnished that relationship. And he could be like, look, we could be cool. You're just not welcome in the studio though.
Right.
You can't come into this space anymore because you don't know how to respect this space.
Right.
Now, Phil, cousin, if you learn how to respect this space, doors open.
Yeah.
But if you can't,
Now there's reasons that you might be breaking stuff in my studio.
I do agree.
I would worry more about you at that moment. You start breaking stuff in my studio, I would worry more about you. Are you okay? Do you need help? Right? But pattern dictates. History dictates.
Right.
All right, Phil, I've had enough. I keep telling you, and you keep this kind of going against the grain of what I'm trying to do here. So that's that last warning. And if it goes beyond, you're done. It's real simple. There's a warning system, right? Sometimes people are in pain too, and they might need that help.
Right.
Broken items can be fixed, but people need attention.
But we talk about there's the action, there's the habit, right? We talked about this in agreement. Like you could do one thing I may not like, but consistently the habit is Kelly's got my best interest. I got Kelly's back. So if there's a one-off, like you're saying, maybe she's just having a bad day. Maybe I was having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
But if consistently there's always a tone, if consistently I've always put down what she's doing, then eventually she's going to be like, okay, I don't want to be around Phil. We do more with our doorstep than our heart. There's so many people that we know take their shoes off at the door.
That's right.
You come into my house. But for whatever reason, the health of our relationships and our own personal heart, I can track mud.
Yeah.
Because I'm family.
Right.
I can Rick James your couch with my or your brother, so you gotta take
Rick James. I love it. I love it.
I'm using it.
What do you mean? Right?
That's a great
we
visual.
Can understand it for the doorstep. What do you mean, me as a person, you can just track mud because we have some sort of tie? No, sir.
I don't know how you cleanly put a Chappelle Show skit on this show. That's wow.
That was good.
I am proud of you. Rick James.
But I do think, you know what, though? I think a lot of times when people have titles like, I'm your brother, I'm your mother, I'm your daughter, I'm your husband, I'm your whatever, cousin.
Right.
Titles can come with it. When people cling to their titles, there's always entitlement.
100%. I agree with that.
Drew said, we're on this ball of mud for a window of time.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a kingdom purpose to do what you're doing, you don't have time for me to be putting holes, no matter what the relationship
No,
is.
because I got to spend more time filling them.
That's right.
Secondly,
That's right.
Watch and pay attention to when people remind you of their title. I'm your sister. You should. Right. It's not an uplifting. It's not for my benefit. It's not for God's purpose. It's for me to be able to babysit you and be able to allow you to continue to act this way. Well, I'm your such and such. You should too. No. Why are you only using your title for me to have a connection to you that's toxic?
Right.
Or to use your title to get me to do something that you want me to do for you.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
It's manipulation.
You owe me because this is the title I have.
I love when the title goes beyond family. I love when the titles, they're kind of a big deal because they're the first person to tell you what kind of big deal they are, and it's based on their title. My answer to that is always titles are for children playing games. You're either a doer or a non-doer. And which one are you? And usually when you have to use the title to get something out of you, that means you're a non-doer and you're talking to a doer that's going to do it for you. Right. So yeah, crazy. I love the title aspect, and entitlement usually goes with it. You're 100% correct.
They do go together.
Yep, hand in hand.
And it goes with excuses too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For why you can be this way. So then you're coddling that person and you're enabling. Like I had a family member of mine, he's always walking up to me. He's like, "You wouldn't do this for me? You wouldn't do this every time." And I'm like, "No, this time I'm not gonna do that." it's not benefiting me. It's not making me a better man, a better father, a better boyfriend. Eventually, one day I want to be a better husband.
Yeah.
It's not making me better. It's only benefiting you. And that's when he said manipulation is the key. But we do, in this era, we do have to stop making excuses for people's bad behavior. We can't reward bad behavior. We have to address it right away, put our boundaries up, and then we won't get to the point where maybe I'm bitter towards this person. Because eventually, if you start letting someone do something to you so much that is bad, so much bad, eventually you're going to end up really, really not liking that person, disliking that person. And you will grow that callous on your heart. You will become, angry and aggressive, and you won't really understand what it means to be around people that actually love you. And they mean it because of you let this person or your girlfriend or your uncle or your father dictate how you should view people. That's the thing. We have to stop making excuses, whether it's family, whether it's your boyfriend, your friend, your girlfriend, doesn't matter. Because if they're doing something that's not benefiting you and it's counterproductive, then you have to remove them out of your life.
But if they honored the title that they're throwing in your face, if you are my blank, ... then act like it. If you're my brother, then act like it.
Right.
If you're my father, then act like it.
Right.
If you're my best, then act like it.
Right.
Because I know what he's about. I know what she's about. I know what you're about. I can't think I could walk up to you and be like, but you have to take me mushing you in the face or hitting you because I'm your brother. No. I should respect that relationship. I should want to also maintain and earn that relationship. You don't get just a jersey just because it's blood.
No. Right.
Earn your spot on the team.
That's right.
Me and Adelia have an amazing conversation about like what you're bringing to the table. And if you brought steak, if you brought turkey, if you brought this, and I can't even grab napkins or salt, you got to do this. Say, man, get up. Get up, man. Watch out. Watch out. You're not trying to bring in, he said, it's always for the other person's benefit. Watch when they come up to you, ask uncle, brother, dad, whatever. Are they bringing anything constructive, productive, helpful, healing to you?
That's right.
You got the title.
If everybody focused on everybody else instead of themselves, everybody would get and know what it would have to take. Right? That's 100% true. I'm the guy that says, "Oh, Phil, you didn't bring. All right, you're doing dishes today, son. That's how that's going to be. Right?
It's got to be a potluck relationship.
That's right.
Everybody's bringing something.
Yeah, it can't be one-sided.
No.
Yeah. And see, I that is where I have been guilty is the word, or just soft is I don't really look at what you're bringing to the table until you're bringing damage. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and so then I'm like, I do think that it's important to surround yourself. You will not be able to build a bridge and finish it if you don't have people in your life that are for you. And I don't mean people that are for you, meaning they're going to jump on and do what you're doing.
Right.
You're for me, but you're not going with me to Uganda right now.
Next
year. That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, we can still cheer each other on. I'm for you thriving and succeeding, but I'm not helping you coach the basketball team.
Right.
But I'm still for you. Where I think, and that's part of my healing journey right now, is I feel like there's a lot of, I'm kind of doing a clean sweep because, people want you to serve their kingdom. If you're not serving their kingdom, then.
But you're not building your bridge to their kingdom.
I feel like I've always struggled with, I don't want to be used by people. And it really actually offends me when people say, God is using you. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I just want God to love me. And I'll go the distance with Jesus. Just, I got to know you love me. Using to me means I'm going to get what I can out of you and toss you to the side. And I feel like, why is that such a core problem with me, that I'm so afraid of being used? Because you know what? I've surrounded myself with a bunch of users, and I've allowed behavior that festers that, right? I have to take ownership for it. I've allowed behavior in other people that brings that out of them. And
perception.
They can use me for whatever they need to use me for and then move on to something
Well,
else.
the perception is key to that too, because if you're strong enough, you can still build your bridge and build it over their bridge without intersecting. you can, as long as you have a core group that's also supportive of you, you could be around all these different types.
Sure.
As long as you know that your strength is there, and be like, oh, I feel sorry for you that you think God's using me. Well, that's your opinion, and it doesn't seem to phase you. It's like water on the duck's back, right? Because you know what you're doing, and you know how you're moving forward. And then there's a group of us going, we're rooting for you. So that's okay. You're going to be around those people no matter what. The world's filled with different types of people. And it's not about what happens to you. And I know this is cliche, but it's not about what happens to you. It's about how you handle it. If you can handle it and still build your bridge, which, by the way, Kelly, you're building a pretty strong bridge, which is awesome. You can still build your bridge, and you don't have to intersect your bridge with somebody else's bridge. You build it over them.
Right.
So when you look down, you go, oh, hey, there they are. They're underneath me. Okay, gotcha. And you move forward, right?
And we had the conversation as well. Kind of going to your analogy, where it's like, no, I didn't go to Africa this year. You're not on the court with me. Yeah, you went. Then you also brought a person for the audiobooks who led me to how to get my book on. So we're still throwing tools.
Right. Of course, because we're cheering each other on. Right. Absolutely.
I was like, man, this is amazing. I can't help you because I don't have that superpower.
Right.
I have friends who can. Let me know if you need help around here. What I can't do is I can't lay on the bridge or put holes in the bridge that you two are building and then just complain, are you really going to use that material?
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Eventually, they'll jump. Like, get off the bridge.
Well, and I love that because I got something for you on that. With the amount of shows that we have here at the studios and everything else, and we're coming out of a hobby space, and then you go and you do a show that's been a free show for such a long time, but now they're not happy with some of the changes, but they want to complain to you about it for free, and I'm like, awesome. Why am I wasting my time when I could be spending that time with either my family or moving on to a show that is more appreciative of being paid for?
Right.
So I'm kind of at the point where I see it all the time. And are they doing it intentionally? Probably not. But do they carry that perspective? No. Why? Because it's not theirs. Yep. And I think it's not a using scenario. We try to do stuff for other people to help them. But now that there's changes, it's like, oh, I don't know if I could be part of this. And I'm like, okay, then I guess you can't.
Yeah,
you'll see who to build with when it comes to inconvenient. Right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will fall to the wayside.
Yep.
When you're talking about like, we'll bring the stuff to the table, and I'm not always looking for but I'm not always looking for a taker. We'll sit here and break bread and like, yeah, if you didn't bring it in the first time, but like time after time after time, it's like, oh, they're just coming around because it's convenient. They've never really offered to help. We offer to help each other all the time.
All the time.
If we ever know that someone needs something, boom, yeah, I got this person. Hey, I have a friend who reads, but like you do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
really,
like, if it's the same bridge of a different, I'm cool building with this group because the intention's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think to bring it back a little bit to what we originally started, if we don't forgive, it is going to hinder our bridge building. It is. It's going to hinder us being able to be around people that are doing the work and are healthy,
right,
and are encouraging us. Unforgiveness makes you bitter, makes you fear-filled, and it makes you judgmental. So healthy people don't want to be around that. So in order to build your bridge, kind of bringing us back.
Reel it in.
We have to realize that. And I know it's cliche. And there's many times when I hear, oh, when you forgive people, it's for you, not for them. And, that can feel really cliche. It really can.
Mm-hmm.
It does. And it hurts when you've not felt validated in the betrayal or the wounds of other people. Our little pat answers don't feel good.
Yeah.
But it truly is. I mean, just look at within your own self and ask your own self the question, how am I viewing people? How am I building relationships? How am I able to move forward on the bridge? Or am I getting stuck on in the same place? God's not calling us to be stuck. And he's not calling us to splash in the mud puddle. Although he's very patient when we do.
Right. He didn't build you a treadmill. He wants you to move forward. Right.
Yeah.
You're not standing, you're not running in place.
Yeah.
Well,
I love it.
That's the work for yourself. That's
Yeah.
sometimes you have to take a step back can really, really look, like you said, in the mirror. And because we can, like, with the using part, like, we can become people pleasers. I know I struggle with saying no to people that I care about, or just people in general, but then it might affect the relationship with a person that really, really has my best intentions at heart. You know, because I'm over here sowing the seed when we can both be watering each other, opposed to you just sowing the seed and then just taking. And you do have to forgive yourself for that. And then you do have to learn to forgive people and take the time, but just understand boundaries. Right?
Boundaries.
So you don't get to that point where you're so bitter, upset, because sometimes we allow ourselves to get to that point because we want to see people grow and get better, but it's hindering our process of growing in the end. So that's the biggest thing I think for me is just learning what forgiveness is.
Yeah.
And like you said, the cliche is if you forgive this person, it's for you. And that's a hard thing to hear because it's like I don't care. Like God forgives. That's what my uncle used to say.
Yeah.
God forgives. I don't. But the reality is he stayed stuck in that predicament for a very, very long time. And he was angry and he had to really grow from. And he's great. Good man. Knows how to miss out on a lot of opportunities because he didn't.
Yeah, just let it go. And I think that we feel like if we forgive, we're giving up an opportunity for justice. Like that's the thing. Like
Vengeance isn't yours.
It isn't. But do we always trust that God's going to be just? Right? And oftentimes we want mercy for ourselves and justice for other people, and that's, so it's a delicate dance, but I do think, and boundaries, I hated that word. I'll tell you, I hated that word. I thought that was just an excuse for people to be selfish. And I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
The very, very hard way. And I can't say that I'm really great at knowing what boundaries look like because I don't believe they're a formula, and I don't believe they're the same for everybody in every relationship. So It's having the wisdom to have boundaries that allow you to love well, and loving from a distance is okay.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Letting them in and not being able to love them is not wise.
Right.
Keeping them out there and being able to love them from a distance.
That's my acquaintance category. Right. Love from a distance.
The bridge looks great over there.
Right. I can yell from you from here.
Right.
It's fine. I learned that, and I know we're coming close to the end here, but listening to you guys is great because it helps me build my bridge when I hear other perspectives on how they're building their bridge. And one of my biggest challenges, and we could go around the table real quick, but one of my biggest challenges that I'm learning to adjust to is, because I get disrespected, doesn't make it right for me to disrespect back. Okay. And that's hard because I'm a Gen Xer, and that's what we used to do for fun. And it was when you were a true brother with somebody, it didn't matter what you said, and it just became fun and funny. The world has changed from that. So if you feel disrespected, disrespecting back is not the answer. You could build your bridge stronger by giving them a little bit more respect and making them look disrespectful. Right. So that's one of the things that I'm learning today. Phil, what about you?
I think that probably mine would be that when you have a conversation, to go with what you're saying, the disrespect, when you express that, you do communicate it, and you have a conversation, you try to sit down, how they respond to it lets me know if I want to continue building in that direction. Right. Because if Daniel says, hey man, I didn't like that you said that, and my response is so,
right,
he's got to sit there and be honest with himself. Is this somebody that I want to build with? I should be able to say, I apologize if I wronged you, but that's my little brother. I don't want conflict there. I don't feel that he should continue to take disrespect just because we're brothers. That's not how I should build that relationship. So just seeing how people respond to when there's the opportunity for owning up so that the building can continue going has been something that I've seen. To go with the forgiveness aspect of it, having to see how they respond and separate, because I don't want to build with a tarnished heart. Right? I like my coworkers, right? But if you ever worked with a bad coworker, like, I want to leave early. I want to take my lunch break as long as possible just because I don't want to be around this person. I don't want that for God's purpose for my life. So,
do you ever find that once the bad worker goes away, though, another one rises up? Sometimes right?
Yes, but if I see the same resume, I'm like,
Yeah. No, I get you. I'm learning. I think in building my bridge, I've had to learn a lot of just strength and discernment, and really understanding the right people to build the bridge with me. That's been a huge thing, because I can, sometimes I'm like, oh, everyone's invited. And I've learned that not everybody makes a great teammate. And so, know what you're looking for, and you don't have to be like everybody else. My bridge doesn't need to look like everybody else.
Nope.
I'm kind of learning, even with the whole bringing people over there, I need to be very discerning about that, because what happens is, instead of me being able to build a bridge, I can become a cruise director where I'm just taking everybody around.
Now you're a tour guide.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's different things I'm learning in the process of this. And as far as forgiveness goes, forgiving the people, God's not going to have people you don't care about in the battle.
Yeah.
It's going to be people you care about, because that's where the enemy can get and affect the
That's
most.
right. And
so I've got to learn to be forgiving and to let go. And the biggest thing for me is to not expect people to be where I'm at.
Okay. You don't expect it from people in the same uniform to be in battle against you.
Yeah. Like, listen, I wouldn't be able to go there with you, because I would fear that I would make you look bad because of how I am sometimes. So that's why we get along great, right? Because sometimes you just don't belong in certain fashions. Now, I'll see you when you get back. That's kind of,
and it's not for everybody, and I can't say that quickly enough. It's
right.
not.
You're not a tour guide. You're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to put in, if they're not bringing to the table the salt, the pepper, the plates, whatever, then why make you look bad when you're doing something great already, and you already have that built, that part of your bridge is sound. I'm not looking to, drag my sledgehammer on top of your bridge, right?
Yeah,
so,
or try to change the materials that we're using because you like them better.
Correct. Well put.
At this point in my life, I feel that people who come up, like, he has an identity, you have an identity. People know by now what you're about. So if we're going to build and I show up no tools, no nothing, you're like, well, you weren't serious about this particular project.
Right.
If I'm getting introduced and, hey, we're going to have Kelly Vance, does this, to Sunbeams Uganda, blah, blah, I have to come to like, okay, great, she's on the show, awesome, but who do I know would be great for this? I want to try to proactively bring some sort of tool, even if I'm not good at building construction wise.
Right.
Who do I know that can help with the project? That way, at least I'm bringing something to this table for this relationship to continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Kendall says people will only do what you allow, so these chats are definitely important. Yes, you do have to address it. Just trying to sweep it under the rug is not going to work, especially for disrespectful people. Takers are not going to stop taking just because you allow them to continue to take. So that's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you guys. Love you guys so much. We will be back next 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks.
Hopefully we have Kent Jones with us. He's over here being a superhero taking over the world. We absolutely love you. Enjoy your weekend. And stay safe.